Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Ready to hop in and talk some Battlefield. And today we've got a fun topic. On the coattails of Modern Warfare 3, we want to ask the question, could the next Battlefield game do something similar? Could it bring what was great or the core of Battlefield 2042 and make it slightly better, a lot better? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's jump right in. I really like this idea because, as we see, what did the person from Call of Duty say? That this is the first true Call of Duty sequel with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, it's the first true DLC pack that's been sold as a sequel, I would call it. And worded however he wants to word it, I guess. It's it's an interesting. It's very weird. I don't know how I feel about it because, on one hand, I just said this before we started recording. I feel as though, like, I've essentially been scammed because not to say that it's misleading. I knew what I was buying, so it's my fault if anyone's. But it's
if you were scammed, you would have just been resold the original Modern Warfare.
So it's like a weird feeling of I paid for this game and I kind of know that I shouldn't have in a way. But then, funnily enough, this is the most fun I've had with COD in close to 10 years, I would say. Black Ops 3 is the last one that I think I truly enjoyed, and the rest of them have just been not that great since then. And yeah, it's just a weird situation, I think. So it kind of leads into an interesting topic, sort of flipping that onto Battlefield, that I think it would come with mixed opinions, really. It would come with a lot of people really happy, oh yes, we're returning to the old school Battlefield, and a lot of people will just be like, what the hell, I've just bought this not even that long ago, like you're going to make me pay again for the same content that we've been playing before. So yeah, it's definitely just a divisive thing. No matter how well or poorly it's made, I think it would always be divisive in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And for people that don't know or aren't keeping up with the Call of Duty world, what the heck is happening from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3 right now?
So it is a separate game, yet it is essentially
technically
DLC. Yeah. From a technical perspective, in the store, it is titled a different thing than Modern Warfare 2, but it is essentially the exact same game. Now, they've made some gameplay changes, but those are things that could have been patched in Modern Warfare 2. It's not like they've fundamentally changed the game. The gunplay and all that is pretty much just if you took the game and did a big, like, not even a big overhaul, just some sort of overhaul to slightly change stuff. For example, they've changed a lot of the movement, changed like the weapon unlocks and all that kind of thing. There's obviously new content in terms of weapons and that, but if I showed you Modern Warfare 2 gameplay and then showed you Modern Warfare 3 gameplay, I'm almost certain you wouldn't know which one's which. Unless you've played them for hours, even me, if you showed me some, I'm not even sure I would know other than the maps, but if you showed me some gameplay in like a grey box setting, I genuinely don't know if I could pick them apart, and I played a lot of hours of both games. So that's kind of the main thing. And then when it comes to the content, all the weapons are new. Well, not all the weapons. There's more to that as well. But the maps are every single map in the game is from the original Modern Warfare 2. So not the one that came out last year, but Modern Warfare 2 2009. So all of the maps we're playing on, it's reused content. They're obviously like remastered, like they look better, but there's no change. They haven't done a Battlefield and like updated the maps or anything. They're all identical in the layout. And then when it comes to the weapons, like I said, so every weapon in Modern Warfare 2, as in the recent one, is then ported across to this game as well. So they're selling it as this package of like, oh, this game's got 100 plus weapons and all this stuff. No, it's got like 6 guns in each class, and then the rest of them are content that I spent last year grinding. So don't try and sell me that there's 100 guns in this game. There's not. There was X amount of guns, let's just say 70 guns in Modern Warfare 2 that are just also in this game as well. And I've already got them leveled up and stuff. So it's not even exciting. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to grind all these guns. I've already got half of them are already gold camos and stuff. So it's a weird situation where there's pros of it that, yes, all the old maps, it's reused, and that's kind of a negative. Yet it's also the pros of those are really good maps too. So it's kind of good that we finally have some good maps in a new Call of Duty, because honestly the map design has been, to me, by far the worst part of all the recent CODs. They all just suck completely. The best map in any of the last 5 CODs would be the worst map in this game by so much. So there's pros and cons to it, and it's just a very divisive situation where, yeah, it's like just taking just the map thing into consideration. That is either going to please you or make you hate it. There is no in between. I don't think many people are just like, yeah, it's all right. Most people are like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. We've got my favorite maps ever. They're back. Or they're like, what the hell? I've bought these maps in 2009. Like, why am I paying for this again? So it's just a very, very weird. It's the weirdest game release I think I've ever seen in terms of a multiplayer game, because it is a DLC pack for Modern Warfare 2, and funnily enough, it is confirmed that was originally that was what they were planning. Remember a few years ago when they said that COD would not be having a yearly release for the first time?
Yeah.
That was meant to be this year. And
I was wondering that, because that was...
Yeah.
I thought like the whole rumor mill was like, they're not going to have a Battlefield, or they're not going to have a Call of Duty this year, and DICE is considering doing a Battlefield game this year to make up for that, or some garbage like that.
That has now gone out the window, because this was going to be DLC for Modern Warfare 2. Funnily enough, they were still going to sell it for $70. So this is actually like all officially coming out from like Activision themselves.
So, I mean, if you're saying this, if I'm understanding what you're saying, they were going to release this as a DLC for $70.
Yep.
And then they just decided, yo, we're just going to release it as its own game for $70.
Yep. So the only thing that is different, the only thing that has changed is that it is not called like Modern Warfare 2, expansion pack. It is called Modern Warfare 3. That is literally the only difference. Because, like I said, they've done a lot of positive changes to the movement and stuff. There's a lot of good stuff about this game, but it all could have just been updates to Modern Warfare 2. It's the engine and the gameplay is exactly the same. When you look at like 2042 compared to Battlefield 5, you can tell that when you're shooting a gun in that game, it's different than this game. It's not like that in this game. It feels identical, which isn't even a bad thing, because the gunplay is really good and everything. But it's just like, it's just weird. It's hard to explain, because it feels wrong, even though it's not even necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just the price tag that makes it a bad thing. But like, from a gameplay perspective, a lot of the changes they've decided on are actually really good. It's just that there's that moral gray area of like, okay, you've done all this really good stuff, but you sold it to us for $70 when any other game, e.g. Battlefield 2042, would just fix it for free. And like, that's the issue that most people are having, I think, which is fair, because we're not all made of money. We can't just shill out freaking $70 every year for the new COD when they could have done this for free. They're still going to make their billions from skins and all that, but they just went with the greedy option, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So, making the comparison, Call of Duty decided to quote-unquote fix the game and make it better, release it as its own game rather than the Battlefield plan, which is usually make a crappy game and then fix it and then By the time they fix it, they lose half their player base. They do a free weekend, and then people come back, and then they cancel the game. Like that's the DICE cycle. If we're looking at that, and we're looking at Battlefield 2043, fake name, but and I think technically, according to the story, we're in like 2046 now or something along those lines.
Yeah, we're actually a few years into it, which is surprising that they haven't actually. They could have used that as a bit of a relaunch, but they
rebrand it. But considering we have all of these different things, considering the state of things, would it be a good idea, in our opinion, to have Battlefield's next game be Battlefield 2050 and just be a continuation of what made Battlefield 2042 so great? Like basically start where this game ends and then take all of the core pieces, take what worked really well with this game, and then move into the next. Do you think that this is a good plan? Is this something that they should do?
It's a very difficult thing to say. I think the perfect situation would actually be sort of the middle ground between that, which is just doing like a soft relaunch and committing to this game and just not have the next Battlefield for a long time. And kind of like what I mean by soft relaunch is that
do like a Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition, but
sort of like
better,
that, and it's
bigger.
Yeah, so like everyone who owns the game, you don't have to buy it again or anything. It's like if you own it and you're currently playing it, it's just an update for you. You don't have to like go and buy it and download it again or anything like that. But you can also sell it to a new player base by sort of rebranding it, because I think the 2042 title in itself and just like the cover art and everything, it's got a negative connotation to it. Even though the game's in a good state, people just, that's just how it goes, man. It was the same. It was actually very much the same with Battlefront 2, where the game was in a really good state. And before the Celebration Edition came out, when they obviously changed the cover, people just kind of see the original cover and the title and they just go, oh, that game sucks because it did at launch. And I think most people don't ever get over that. I don't know why that is, but it was even kind of the same. You look at Cyberpunk, they've now essentially rebranded that game to Phantom Liberty as well. Because, I mean, they do that. They did that with The Witcher, so it's not like they just did it because of that. But they have rebranded that game with essentially a new cover, and I think it is fully just now called Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. It's not actually called 2077 and then nothing after that. So I think that type of relaunch is the best way to do it, because then you don't have to actually start from scratch. And then, for example, if they did that and did like Battlefield 2050, for example, but I had to buy it again, then I've got an issue with it, because I'm like, why am I paying for something I'm playing this for free right now? Why do I have to buy it again? Which I personally don't care, because if it means we're going to get another couple of years of content and it's like in a really good state, I'd probably be pretty happy to buy the game again, to be honest. But it's different as a creator, and it's also like, yeah, just not everyone wants to do that. That's not fair. So I don't know. It's a tough situation, because generally the options are either A, move on to the next game and this game is quote unquote dead, or B, just keep going with this game and don't release a new game. The issue with that is that this game will just die off because it doesn't have any new incoming hype. No matter how much you like promote seasons and stuff, there's nothing new and big about it. It's just like season 8 or whatever. People aren't, like regular shooter players aren't interested by Battlefield 2042 Season 7. Then they're not going to download the game for that. They may download it for Battlefield 2050 with all this new cover art and a big new launch trailer and, you know, all that kind of thing. So I do think the middle ground, if they're going to go that way, is the best option. Whether that would be the best option, I'm not too sure. I just wish they would launch a game well and then stick with it. But maybe, I don't know. Like,
hey man, that's asking a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That they've kind of proven they can't do that. So do we actually just bite the bullet and be like, nah, let's just stick with 2042, relaunch it so that you can get a bit more hype and you can do your new like launch trailers and rebrand it a little bit and freshen it up. And that, but we still have, because then currently when that game is quote unquote launching, it's in a good state now. So we don't have to worry about, oh, this game could suck at launch because we know it's good. And if they could just commit to that and put out regular, like pretty quick content, then it could be really good. But yeah, I don't know. It's easy to say that. I personally don't think they would ever do that though.
It's such an interesting thing because I feel like looking at Call of Duty, and I would say an unreasonable amount of success with Call of Duty's scam.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, I'm torn. I feel like Battlefield 2042 would benefit from something so similar in such a, even more so than Call of Duty, honestly, because I mean, Battlefield is a completely different game than it was when it came out. But I also think that they would have to do more if they were going to pull the same trick, because there's a different player base for Battlefield than there is for Call of Duty. Call of Duty is much more of the fan base that's willing to pay for quote unquote the same game as last time than most other audiences in gaming, really, because I feel like it's become a meme as much as it has anything else that, yeah, you're going to get the same game each Call of Duty release, but it's going to be fun. And now they've pushed that whole idea to the max with this one, I feel.
They really have. It does feel as though they have actually gone, like, let's see what we can do here. We sell these games like crazy every year. Let's see what the minimum is that we can do. And it just feels like they've done that. And for whatever reason, and I'm kind of including myself in this, we're just okay with it. I think that is just because COD has been absolute arse for the last 10 years. That I know for me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, this will do for now. Like I just don't give me something that's not terrible for once. And that is what this game is. It's just finally a COD that isn't bad. Now it's not even remotely as good as the like prime COD. It's still just not in that same category, but I'm still enjoying it. And usually, like with Modern Warfare 2 last year, the game, for context, has been out 1 week. And by this time last year, I was done. I was like, nah, this game sucks. And I played it a bit longer. I played a bit of Warzone and stuff, but I knew the game sucked. Whereas now, I'm kind of happy to just keep playing this until like something else comes out, like the finals or X Defiant. And so, yeah, it's a bad thing for the shooter genre that they've done that, and we're all just like, yeah, that's fine, thanks. Like that we really should have, which was never going to work, obviously. But this is the type of game that should have been boycotted. We should have, like, as a community, been like, no, that you can't do that. You can't just release the same and sell it for $70. It'd be different if it was like $40. That's different, because then you're giving us a cheaper game. And I think that shows that you're a bit like, yeah, we're accepting that this is, like, we know we didn't put as much effort into this one. But they didn't do that. They sold it for the same price. And it has officially come out again from Activision too, that this game took, I think this is from the actual developers, it took them 16 months to make this. They usually take 3 years. So 36 months compared to 16 is how long this took. And they've sold it for the same price. So...
Which is, honestly, it's insane that they, even though it is a game that was turned around using a lot of the similar assets and everything like that, knowing all of that, it's still insane that they did it in 16 months.
Yeah.
Like, that's just madness.
It's actually, like, I don't agree with it. I don't like that they rushed it, but I also have to be like, well done, guys. Like, it's pretty mental to put a game out that quickly, and it's not terrible, because it's better than the other, the last 5, and they all took 3 years, and they've just kind of thrown this one together, and it's actually better.
Yeah.
And that goes to show that maybe it's because they overthink a lot of the decisions and stuff. Maybe if they just go, like, it feels like with this game, they just went like, all right, let's kind of go back to our roots a little bit and like slap a bunch of old content in there. And it's a bit more simple. Like, a lot of the unlocks in the last COD were a bit, you had to like unlock a freaking shotgun and max out that shotgun in order to get like a red dot sight for your SMG. Like, it was so dumb. Like, you couldn't just get a weapon, level it up, and get the attachments. You had to like use other weapons to get attachments for your SMGs and stuff. It was so stupid. It feels like they've just kind of simplified this one a bit, which, yeah, it is very. It's odd that they've done so well in how short of amount of time.
Yeah, it's insane. So we're talking about if they should do that. Do you think Battlefield could pull off something similar? Could they do the next layer of like the Celebration Edition? Could they say, hey, this is the next version of Battlefield 2042? If they do Battlefield 2050 and it be like, hey, this is 4 more seasons at least, this is the plan for it, do you think that they could pull that off?
I think they could, just provided it's not just the same way that the Celebration Edition was, where I didn't have to buy that. No, I did because it was like I wanted it, but you didn't have to buy that if you already own the game. That's the only way I think they could do it. Because, for example, with COD, it's so mental, but you can have Modern Warfare 2 and have essentially, 70% of the weapons that are in Modern Warfare 3, but if you don't buy the game, you can't play this new one, even though it is essentially DLC. So that is an issue for me, even though I bought the game. So it's fine for me personally, but that's not cool for them to do that. So I think Battlefield could, provided they just make sure that it's not that like scammy feeling of like, oh, you're telling me I have to go and rebuy Battlefield again. Like that's my only concern with that. But if they did it like the Celebration Edition, where they said, if you don't own the game, it costs, it's a full price game. You can buy the game, but you get all this content that everyone else got over the last 2 years and everything. And if they were to throw in a bunch of like really cool skins and stuff like that, and then say for us, they could be like, you guys can get the upgrade 2 for $20 and you'll get all these cool skins, or you can just have it for free. And whether maybe even the skins are locked behind, you just can't unless you pay for them or whatever. That's fine. As long as I can play the game without paying for it, that's fine. But yeah, it kind of just depends on when. I think the only reason I would want that is if they did commit to it for another 3 years, as if treat it like it's a proper launch. Like they've just launched 2042 now. That's the only way I think I want that. Because if it was just for another 4 seasons, for example, then it's like, well, just don't do that. Just just give us another 4 seasons and then release the next game. So
that's what I'm thinking. Like if they rebranded almost like Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk, like if they rebranded this whole idea of the game and said this is, press release, Battlefield announces today, blah, blah, blah. Battlefield 2042 was the foundation for many learning opportunities in the Battlefield franchise. We've tried to push things further than we ever have in other franchise or game entries, blah, blah, blah. And now with 2050, we are innovating even further with the Battlefield brand and trying something entirely new for the franchise. Like, what if they did something like that?
Yeah, I also think that it would be really cool to essentially do that and then implement Marcus Leto's team and their single player experience into that. And that can be what they sell us who already own the game. They can say there's Battlefield 2050, it's got the multiplayer and it is the same game as Battlefield 2042, but it's just this new sort of upgrade or reskin of that. But you can also pay $20 and you get a campaign that comes along with that. And with the campaign comes a bunch of skins and whatever. Yeah. I think that would be really cool. I think I would be down for that. But again, it needs to be a long-term thing. They need to do that and support it for 3 more years. That's the only way that I'm for it. Because it would then just end up another Celebration Edition where we all were kind of like, oh, sick, this is the relaunch of the game. And then it just 6 months later. So we all know how that went. And that wasn't fun because we kind of thought we were in for a long live service here and it just didn't go that way. So, yeah, I think I think realistically, either A, do what we're talking about and commit to this until, don't release the next official Battlefield until like 2027 or something, and just commit to this game for like the next 3 years, early 2026 or something, cancel it and we gear up for the next one. Or if they're not going to do that and they really want to get the next one out, then just support this one for like season 7 and 8 and move on. I think that's the best way to do it. One of those two options. I think any other option is just kind of it almost feels like it would be a waste again. Kind of like, not to say the Celebration Edition was a waste, because I think that was good, but like it would just feel like a bit of a waste of time if they put all this effort into this little mini relaunch and it gained a bit of hype again and everything was going well, and then like we just get a few more seasons and they cancel it. That just seems not worth the time. Just put that time into the next game if they're going to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a good idea for them possibly to do something like that, but it almost resets it in a bad way. I think a lot of more people would take Battlefield 2042 more seriously if they did something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same hand, I think don't waste your goodwill on a possible flop with like something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe say, hey, this is where we are in the story. Maybe it's Battlefield 2042 Phase 2. Something like that. Like that's what you categorize the second wave of content and battle passes for. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think there's lots of different ideas there that they could play around with that could be successful. I just don't know if it's the right move for Battlefield.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that's kind of what I'm getting at too, where it's like I think it could work. I just don't know if it's the right option. Do you know what I mean? Because it could even work, and it still isn't the best choice. Like it could go well, and then they should have still done the other option or something. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about, and I would be down for it because I think it would just remove my like anxiety about the next game sucking. Like we'd know that, okay, we're committed, like 2042, or it would be called 2050 or whatever, is now, that's the Battlefield for the next 3 years. But we know it doesn't suck at launch, and we can just, also provided they actually don't put out one map every 3 months. That's the other thing to it. They'd have to ramp up. You can't just do what they're currently doing, because my opinion on that is, if you're going to do what you're currently doing, just can it, man. Just move on. Like, if we're going to keep it this slow, I'd rather them, I'm not going to lie, if they're going to keep it this slow, I'd rather them just not do season 7 and 8 and just spend that to get this team working, like get the skeleton crew on this team just working on making sure the game works for us to play it. Don't give us any more content, and get those people who would be working on that content to work already on content, like post-launch content for the next game. Get it years in advance, like, because that's what I want for the next game. We all know they can fix issues. We all know that they can make a good game by the end of it. And look, if they launch the next game and it kind of sucks, but it has this typical cycle where it ends up good, that's going to be annoying, but it's not that different. I've enjoyed all the previous Battlefield games, so it's not the end of the world if they do that again. It's not. I'm not. It probably sounds like I'm trying to say that's okay. It's not okay for them to do that, but it's like, I'm not going to be like, this game sucks, I'm throwing it in the bin. I'll probably still be playing that if it launches terribly, because I just know that it's probably going to turn around. The difference is, if it does that and has another slow post-launch content sort of updates, I don't know if I can do that, because at least with, like, say with Battlefield 4, that had a really rough launch, but man, we got some content, and it was good content. So that really made that okay, the launch of that game. That's why no one ever talks about that game being bad at launch, because no one remembers that, because the post-launch content was so good, and they fixed the game on top of that. It's the same with, like, I mean, Battlefield 1 launched well, but again, we got a fair amount of content. It didn't go that long, but, like, there was a lot of DLC packs and stuff for that game. That's my main issue with 2042, is the slow content. So I just think that